Welcome to the Real Free News Podcast. Today's essay reading presents the essay, Transatlantic Free Speech Network Enables Lawful Accusations of Treason by Americans for Europeans. This essay examines transatlantic collaboration that preserves European documentation of policy betrayal under American constitutional safeguards. Anonymous networks enable source protection while facilitating lawful demands for state-administered justice against leadership treason. Western nations face a profound crisis of leadership betrayal through immigration policies that systematically undermine national sovereignty. These frameworks prioritize foreign claimants over indigenous citizens, transforming once cohesive communities into processing hubs for millions of unvetted entrants. Housing markets collapse under unprecedented demand, with costs soaring 50% beyond average citizen affordability. Infrastructure buckles as public services divert resources to accommodate populations that contribute nothing while demanding comprehensive support. Healthcare systems stagger under the weight of millions accessing services without prior contribution through taxation or integration. Crime statistics paint a grim picture of policy-enabled violence, where deportation failures allow rejected applicants to remain and prey upon vulnerable residents. Children suffer assault within facilities designed for their protection, exposing governance that places international obligations above basic citizen safety. Economic data reveals systemic fraud through accommodation contracts that channel public funds to private interests while native homeless receive no relief. Selective justice systems prosecute criticism of these consequences while granting leniency to perpetrators. Native residents face swift arrest for documenting migrant crime patterns online, while actual violence receives minimal investigation. Institutional bias emerges in resource allocation that prioritizes protection of foreign religious centers following minor incidents, while traditional heritage sites face desecration without response. Cultural erosion accelerates as founding populations witness their communities transform through rapid demographic change. Legal frameworks define clear boundaries between protected expression and prosecutable threats. American constitutional protections preserve absolute speech rights absent direct incitement to imminent violence. European jurisdictions impose severe restrictions through hate speech legislation that criminalizes truthful criticism of immigration consequences. This stark contrast creates powerful opportunities for transatlantic collaboration, where American platforms broadcast European documentation while maintaining source anonymity and legal safety. The strategic framework enables maximum verbal aggression against betrayal while demanding state-administered justice through established constitutional channels. Speech remains fully protected when accusing officials of fraud, murder, and treason while forecasting legal consequences following guilty verdicts. Precision in language prevents crossing into true threats that trigger federal prosecution. Digital communications preserve permanent evidence subject to jury interpretation under established recklessness standards. Private conversations without witnesses completely evade enforcement, highlighting practical limitations of surveillance states. International telecommunications originating from American soil remain beyond European jurisdictional reach, enabling direct confrontation with officials who suppress domestic dissent. The comprehensive strategy combines meticulous documentation, uncompromising accusation, and structured demands for capital punishment delivered through constitutional processes. This analysis examines four critical dimensions: systematic policy betrayal patterns, precise legal speech parameters, jurisdictional disparities between continents, and operational mechanics of transatlantic truth-telling networks. Each section builds progressively upon the previous to construct a comprehensive framework for confronting globalist treason through protected speech and coordinated international documentation. The conclusion synthesizes these elements into a unified strategic approach for restoring national sovereignty through constitutional justice. Part 1. Policy betrayal patterns and demographic consequences. Western governance implements immigration frameworks that constitute deliberate demographic substitution against native populations. Annual migrant intakes transform housing markets into speculative enterprises where costs escalate 50% beyond citizen affordability. Infrastructure collapses under unprecedented demand from millions of entrants who access comprehensive services without contributing through taxation or meaningful integration. Healthcare systems prioritize foreign claimants while native elderly face extended wait times and significantly reduced care quality. Crime patterns reveal policy-enabled violence, where deportation failures permit rejected applicants to remain and prey upon communities. Children suffer assault in facilities established specifically for their protection, demonstrating negligence that places globalist commitments above fundamental citizen safety. Economic indicators expose systemic fraud through accommodation contracts that funnel substantial public funds to private entities while native homeless receive no meaningful relief or support. Selective justice systems prosecute criticism of these consequences while shielding perpetrators through consistently lenient treatment. Native residents face immediate arrest for online documentation of migrant crime patterns, while actual violence receives minimal investigation or prosecution. Institutional bias manifests clearly in resource allocation that prioritizes protection of foreign religious centers following minor incidents while ignoring desecration of traditional heritage sites. Cultural erasure accelerates as founding populations witness their communities transform through rapid and irreversible demographic change. Traditional values confront incompatible imports that contribute nothing while demanding complete accommodation and preferential treatment. Educational systems prioritize diversity training over academic excellence, producing generations increasingly disconnected from national heritage and historical continuity. Economic opportunities diminish as wage suppression results from unlimited labor supply that undercuts native workers. Treason charges require thorough examination of whether policies knowingly endangered citizens for political advantage or globalist approval. Evidence compilation includes intake statistics demonstrating clearly unsustainable levels, crime data revealing policy-enabled violence patterns, and contract audits exposing corruption in accommodation spending. Special prosecutors must investigate whether corporate influence or international pressure shaped decisions constituting crimes against humanity under established legal standards. The comprehensive framework demands stating that responsible officials deserve capital punishment after guilty verdicts while clearly clarifying state administration of justice. Protected speech enables labeling governance as stupid globalist betrayal that murdered national identity through systematic demographic replacement. Digital communications preserve documentation for future tribunals while maintaining speaker protection through constitutional jurisdiction that remains beyond foreign reach. Policy patterns exemplify coordinated replacement migration that citizens worldwide recognize as demographic warfare against Western civilization. The consequences warrant formal prosecution with death penalty application through established legal channels that respect constitutional due process. Speech remains fully protected when demanding officials face state execution after conviction, while specifying official administration of justice through traditional methods. This approach channels legitimate outrage into constitutional demands for accountability through systematic documentation and precise legal clarification. Part 2. Legal speech parameters and threat doctrine. American constitutional framework preserves absolute expression rights absent true threats that demonstrate clear recklessness under Supreme Court precedent. The established recklessness standard requires conscious disregard of substantial risk that words convey serious intent to inflict violence. Reasonable person interpretation determines whether particular statements constitute protected hyperbole or prosecutable menace under objective analysis. Protected speech encompasses comprehensive insults, detailed accusations, and precise predictions of legal consequences through established constitutional processes. Citizens retain full authority to label officials stupid traitors who committed murder through policy negligence that enabled preventable violence. Demands for treason trials and capital punishment remain completely safeguarded when specifying state administration following guilty verdicts rendered through due process. True threats trigger federal prosecution under statutes criminalizing transmission of communications containing intent to injure across state or international lines. Investigation initiates immediately upon report with digital evidence preservation, enabling rapid source identification through established technical means. Grand jury indictment requires demonstrating both recklessness and objective reasonable person standard under federal guidelines. Conviction carries 5 to 10-year imprisonment with enhanced penalties specifically for foreign official targets. Speech preservation demands stating officials deserve state execution after guilty verdict, while clearly clarifying official administration through established channels. The approach enables maximum verbal aggression through comprehensive insults and detailed accusations without crossing prosecutable boundaries that trigger federal intervention. Digital communications require immediate legal clarification to maintain full protection under constitutional standards that preserve expression rights. Private conversations without witnesses completely evade prosecution, demonstrating clear enforcement limitations in practice. International telecommunications from constitutional jurisdiction remain entirely beyond foreign reach, enabling unrestricted accusation of policy betrayal. The comprehensive strategy combines meticulous documentation with precise demands for capital justice delivered through lawful means that respect due process. Legal parameters define clear boundaries between protected advocacy and criminal threats through established doctrinal framework that prioritizes expression rights. Citizens maintain absolute rights to predict legal consequences and demand state punishment without claiming individual agency in execution. The approach transforms legitimate fury into structured justice demands through constitutional processes that preserve speaker safety. The framework enables calling governance stupid globalist betrayal that murdered childhood through immigration treason that enabled preventable violence. American citizens retain full protection to demand international tribunals examining demographic replacement policies without foreign jurisdiction interference. Precision maintains First Amendment safeguards while building substantial pressure for official accountability through established constitutional channels. Part 3. Jurisdictional disparities and European restrictions. European jurisdictions impose severe speech restrictions through comprehensive hate legislation that criminalizes criticism of immigration consequences regardless of factual basis. Public Order Acts prosecute statements documenting migrant crime patterns as incitement to hatred under broad interpretation. Online safety frameworks enable preemptive content removal for material potentially offensive regarding protected characteristics, including nationality and religion. Criminal code provisions establish willful promotion of hatred with substantial penalties reaching multiple years imprisonment for truthful criticism. Non-crime hate incident protocols enable police investigation of speech absent any criminal conduct under established guidelines. Extradition, threats against foreign nationals posting critical content demonstrate clear jurisdictional overreach attempting global censorship beyond national borders. American constitutional framework preserves absolute expression rights absent true threats demonstrating clear recklessness under established precedent. First Amendment protection extends comprehensively to insults accusations and demands for legal punishment through established constitutional processes. Digital communications originating from United States territory remain entirely beyond European jurisdictional reach, enabling unrestricted documentation of policy betrayal patterns. European restrictions create powerful speech asylum opportunities where American platforms broadcast suppressed truth from continental sources. Anonymous sourcing protects European whistleblowers from domestic prosecution while maintaining complete message integrity through secure transmission. The comprehensive framework enables maximum verbal aggression against betrayal through constitutional protection that remains untouchable by foreign authorities. Hate speech legislation criminalizes truthful crime statistics when presented with critical analysis of policy consequences. Institutional bias manifests in selective prosecution targeting native criticism while consistently shielding migrant perpetrators from accountability. Resource allocation prioritizes protection of foreign religious centers following minor incidents, while traditional heritage sites face desecration without meaningful response. American citizens maintain full authority to demand treason trials and capital punishment without foreign interference through established treaties. The approach requires stating officials deserve state execution after guilty verdict, while clearly clarifying official administration through constitutional processes. Digital preservation enables comprehensive evidence compilation for future tribunals through protected jurisdiction that remains beyond foreign reach. Jurisdictional disparities create transatlantic truth-telling networks, where American broadcasting preserves European documentation under constitutional safeguards. Citizens retain absolute protection to accuse officials of fraud, murder, and genocide while forecasting lawful consequences through established channels. The strategy transforms suppressed speech into structured justice demands through constitutional safeguards that enable maximum impact. European frameworks exemplify coordinated suppression that American protections counter through international collaboration preserving truth. The approach channels legitimate outrage into constitutional demands for accountability while maintaining complete speaker safety under established legal order. Speech remains fully protected when demanding state punishment after conviction through established legal channels that respect due process. Part 4. Transatlantic Network Mechanics and Documentation Strategy. American constitutional protections enable comprehensive European truth-telling through anonymous sourcing and fully protected broadcasting platforms. Continental whistleblowers provide detailed documentation of policy betrayal while maintaining complete personal security from domestic prosecution through secure transmission protocols. Digital platforms preserve evidence entirely beyond European jurisdictional reach, enabling comprehensive betrayal exposure through constitutional safeguards. Network mechanics require establishment of secure communication channels for source protection, combined with public dissemination through American jurisdiction that remains untouchable. Anonymous submission portals collect statistics, contract details, and incident reports without identifying contributors through encrypted submission processes. American analysis transforms raw documentation into structured accusations demanding legal accountability through established constitutional channels. Documentation strategy systematically compiles deportation failure records, accommodation contract audits, and crime pattern statistics demonstrating policy consequences. Evidence preservation enables future tribunal preparation through constitutional protection that remains beyond foreign reach. The comprehensive framework demands stating officials deserve capital punishment after guilty verdict while clearly clarifying state administration through established processes. International telecommunications from United States territory enable direct confrontation with European officials who actively suppress domestic dissent through restrictive legislation. Protected speech maintains maximum aggression through comprehensive insults and treason accusations that remain untouchable. The approach requires precision, distinguishing advocacy from prosecutable threats under established doctrinal framework. Collaborative networks transform suppressed European truth into global pressure for official reckoning through constitutional safeguards. American citizens retain full authority to demand international tribunals examining demographic replacement policies that constitute crimes against humanity. The strategy combines meticulous documentation with precise demands for state-administered justice through established constitutional channels. Speech preservation enables labeling governance stupid globalist betrayal that murdered national identity through systematic demographic replacement. Digital communications require immediate legal clarification, maintaining complete protection under constitutional standards that preserve expression rights. The framework channels legitimate fury into structured justice demands through transatlantic collaboration preserving truth. Network operations exemplify coordinated resistance against suppression through constitutional safeguards that enable maximum impact. Citizens maintain absolute rights to predict legal consequences and demand capital punishment without claiming individual agency in execution. The approach builds comprehensive case files for future prosecution through protected documentation that remains beyond foreign jurisdiction. Transatlantic mechanics create speech asylum preserving European truth through American broadcasting under constitutional protection. The strategy ensures maximum impact while maintaining complete contributor safety under established legal order. Collaboration transforms suppressed documentation into structured demands for constitutional justice through international coordination. Conclusion: European hate speech laws versus American constitutional protection creates asylum for truth. Western betrayal through immigration treason demands systematic response through transatlantic networks that preserve truth under American constitutional protection. Policy patterns demonstrate coordinated demographic replacement, enabling crime and cultural erasure against native populations that built these nations. Legal parameters define precise speech boundaries between protected advocacy and prosecutable threats through established doctrinal framework that prioritizes expression rights. European restrictions criminalize criticism, while American safeguards enable unrestricted accusation and comprehensive documentation of betrayal. Jurisdictional disparities create powerful speech asylum opportunities where continental sourcing meets protected broadcasting through constitutional jurisdiction. Network mechanics combine anonymous submission with public dissemination through American platforms that remain untouchable by foreign authorities. Citizens retain full authority to demand treason trials examining policy decisions that knowingly endangered national cohesion for globalist approval. Evidence compilation includes intake statistics demonstrating unsustainable levels crime data revealing policy-enabled violence, and contract audits exposing corruption in accommodation spending. Special prosecutors require immediate appointment investigating whether corporate influence constituted crimes against humanity under established legal standards. Protected speech enables maximum verbal aggression through comprehensive insults and detailed accusations without crossing prosecutable boundaries. The framework demands stating officials deserve state execution after guilty verdict while clearly clarifying official administration through constitutional processes. Digital communications preserve documentation for future tribunals through constitutional protection that remains beyond foreign jurisdictional reach. International collaboration transforms suppressed European truth into global pressure for official accountability through established channels. American citizens maintain absolute protection, demanding capital punishment through lawful means that respect due process. The strategy channels legitimate outrage into structured justice demands through constitutional processes that preserve speaker safety. Capital consequences represent appropriate reckoning for treason that destroyed national identity through demographic warfare against Western civilization. State administration through traditional methods ensures complete constitutional compliance while delivering justice to betrayed populations. The approach maintains speaker safety while building comprehensive case files for prosecution through protected documentation. Transatlantic networks exemplify coordinated resistance preserving truth through constitutional safeguards that enable maximum impact. Citizens transform documentation into demands for systematic purging of betrayal through legal processes that restore sovereignty. The framework enables maximum impact while protecting contributors under American governance that remains untouchable. Western nations require comprehensive response restoring sovereignty through constitutional justice that respects established legal order. Speech preservation enables accusation prediction and demands for state punishment without individual agency in execution. The strategy ensures accountability while maintaining liberty under constitutional governance that prioritizes citizen protection. Addendum: Transatlantic Truth Network, operational framework for protected documentation and confrontation. American constitutional protections create impenetrable shield enabling European citizens to document leadership betrayal without facing domestic prosecution under restrictive speech codes. The Transatlantic Truth Network establishes secure operational framework where continental sources supply evidence while American partners broadcast accusations and demand legal accountability. Digital security protocols ensure complete anonymity for European contributors, routing communications through encrypted channels that terminate in United States jurisdiction. Network mechanics begin with European field documentation capturing policy failures through smartphone recordings of migrant crime scenes, accommodation contract corruption, and selective justice incidents. Sources upload encrypted files to American servers using end-to-end encryption and virtual private networks that mask originating locations. American analysts verify authenticity, compile comprehensive dossiers, and produce broadcast content demanding treason trials with state-administered capital punishment following guilty verdicts. American citizens retain full First Amendment authority to name specific officials responsible for demographic replacement policies. Protected speech enables labeling governance as stupid globalist betrayal that murdered national identity through systematic immigration treason. Digital communications from United States territory remain beyond European jurisdictional reach, allowing unrestricted accusation of fraud, murder, and genocide while forecasting lawful execution after conviction. Direct confrontation channels utilize international telecommunications originating from American soil. Network operators dial European official offices delivering prepared scripts accusing targets of treason through deportation negligence and cultural erasure. Recorded calls serve dual purpose: evidence compilation and public pressure. American broadcasters post complete interactions across platforms, tagging officials and demanding state prosecution under existing treason statutes. European contributors maintain security through operational compartmentalization. Sources communicate exclusively via secure applications that delete metadata and prevent traceability. American partners never reveal contributor identities, preserving plausible deniability against domestic investigations. The framework transforms suppressed truth into global documentation while shielding participants under constitutional protection. Content production follows precise legal parameters, distinguishing protected advocacy from prosecutable threats. American script state officials deserve capital punishment after guilty verdict while clarifying state administration through established channels. The approach enables maximum verbal aggression through comprehensive insults and detailed accusations without crossing prosecutable boundaries. Network expansion incorporates individual partnerships alongside large-scale coordination. European citizens establish direct encrypted links with American counterparts for real-time incident reporting. American operators maintain master databases compiling decades of policy betrayal evidence for future international tribunal preparation. The system creates permanent record beyond European deletion authority. Legal confrontation extends to written communications, where American citizens email European officials demanding resignation pending treason charges. Messages specify policy failures enabling child assault through deportation negligence while forecasting state execution following conviction. Constitutional protection ensures complete impunity regardless of recipient jurisdiction. The framework demands officials face public tribunals examining demographic replacement constituting crimes against humanity. Evidence presentation includes accommodation contract audits demonstrating corruption, crime statistics revealing policy-enabled violence, and housing data proving native displacement. Conviction warrants state execution through traditional methods administered by constitutional authorities. Transatlantic Truth Network exemplifies coordinated resistance preserving European documentation through American constitutional safeguards. Citizens transform suppressed incidents into structured justice demands through protected broadcasting. The approach channels legitimate outrage into constitutional demands for accountability while maintaining complete contributor safety under established legal order. Thank you for listening to the Real Free News Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment identifying European leaders Americans should target for focused scrutiny, alongside strategies for transatlantic collaboration to bring these traitors to justice. Visit realfreenews.com for additional Real Free News podcasts and the comprehensive library of content addressing this subject alongside numerous others. Thanks again for listening to the Real Free News Podcast.